At dawn on September 5, 1914, a single torpedo ripped into the British cruiser HMS Pathfinder near the Firth of Forth in eastern Scotland. In that instant, German submarine U-21 signaled a radical shift in naval warfare. Battleships and cruisers were no longer the only masters of the sea. Submarines, stealthy, precise, and devastating, had arrived. Over the following weeks, a string of lightning-fast attacks drove home this chilling new reality. Over the next few weeks, Germany's U-boats delivered a series of lightning-fast attacks that drove home this chilling new reality. On September 22, just off the Dutch coast, U-9 torpedoed HMS Abu Qir. Then, while rescue operations were still underway, struck again, sinking HMS Hogue and later HMS Cressy. Less than 1 month later, on October 15, U-9 targeted another cruiser in northern waters, HMS Hawke, adding to the rising Allied casualties. Then, on October 18, U-27 shocked observers by sinking the British submarine E-3 in a rare sub-on-sub encounter. By late October, 6 Allied vessels had been sent to the bottom in a span of just over 6 weeks, claiming more than 2,200 lives. Each attack underscored one daunting truth: no ship, whether on the surface or beneath it, was safe from Germany's stealthy undersea threat. Thus began the world's first true submarine war, an era in which underwater technology would dominate the oceans, and every admiral's worst nightmare would lurk just below the waves. Long before steel-hulled U-boats prowled the seas, the first seeds of underwater warfare were planted during the American Revolutionary War. In 1776, a tiny one-manned craft called the Turtle attempted to stealthily attach explosives to British warships. Though it ultimately failed, the Turtle's design introduced core concepts: ballast systems, manual propulsion, and submerged attacks that would inspire future inventors. Fast forward to the US Civil War, where the H.L. Hunley gained fame as the first submarine to sink an enemy vessel. In 1864, it torpedoed the USS Lusitania off the coast of Charleston, South Carolina. Yet this triumph quickly turned tragic when the Hunley itself disappeared soon after, taking its entire crew to the ocean floor. Despite these grim setbacks, both the Turtle and the Hunley proved a crucial point: stealth and submersion held enormous potential in naval combat. Their legacy laid the groundwork for more advanced, diesel-powered submarines of the early 1900s. Lethal, far-reaching, and built for stealth, by 1914, Germany fielded around 30 operational U-boats, each designed with long-range capabilities and surface speeds of about 15 knots. Coupled with an operational depth nearing 100 meters, these submarines could strike convoys or warships far from home bases, then slip beneath most Allied responses. Their advanced torpedoes and deck guns made them a dual threat in any theater, whether patrolling the North Sea or venturing into the Atlantic. Although Britain boasted a larger force, roughly 74 submarines, they were geared toward coastal defense, limiting their oceanic reach. France, with around 50 vessels, and the United States, with about 20, also tended to emphasize local waters, leaving no direct match for U-boats' lethal mix of range, firepower, and stealth. Early in the conflict, that combination gave Germany's submarines an undeniable advantage at sea, redefining how modern navies would wage war below the surface. As the war progressed, submarine fleets soared across all major powers. Germany's U-boat force rose from around 30 to over 100, bolstered by extra torpedo tubes and heavier deck guns, while Britain built more than 120 submarines, many still geared for coastal defense. France and the United States expanded as well, though largely in home waters. This intensified arms race at sea cemented the submarine's role as a pivotal weapon capable of reshaping global naval power. By early 1915, Germany had fully embraced unrestricted submarine warfare around the British Isles, designating any vessel, whether enemy or neutral, as a valid target. The objective was to choke off Britain's maritime supply lines, effectively starving the island nation into submission. The most infamous attack occurred on May 7, when U-20 torpedoed the RMS Lusitania off Ireland's southern coast, killing nearly 1,200 people, including 128 Americans. Just days earlier, on March 3, U-28 sank the British cruiser HMS Acasta, heightening the sense of vulnerability among Allied naval forces. These brutal assaults provoked global outrage and intensified anti-German sentiment, pushing the United States closer to open involvement in the conflict. Meanwhile, German U-boats also ventured into the Mediterranean, while Allied transports in the Aegean Sea faced continuous danger, especially during the Gallipoli campaign, where any disruption to supply routes could prove disastrous. Britain and France hurried to defend these critical passages, intensifying naval patrols and experimenting with early anti-submarine measures, from underwater mines to rudimentary hydrophones. Thus, the race to counter Germany's growing undersea threat began in earnest. By 1916, Germany was fielding a new generation of longer-range U-boats, such as the U-19 class, capable of extended patrols in the North Atlantic and even threatening waters off North America. These improved vessels featured enhanced diesel engines, deeper diving limits, and greater torpedo capacity, magnifying Germany's ability to strike at vital Allied shipping lanes. In response, the Allies introduced early hydrophones, primitive underwater listening devices, to detect submarine propellers, while destroyers and armed trawlers conducted more frequent patrols along known transit routes. Diplomatically, the SS Sussex incident in March 1916, where a French ferry was torpedoed with American citizens on board, provoked intense international pressure. Germany briefly moderated its attacks to avoid further antagonizing the United States, but tensions continued to simmer. As both sides adapted, the undersea battlefield grew more unpredictable. Germany's upgraded U-boats tested Allied defenses, while each new Allied countermeasure forced the German Navy to refine tactics yet again. Early in 1917, Germany intensified its U-boat campaign by resuming unrestricted submarine warfare in the North Atlantic. No longer issuing warnings, German submarines attacked all vessels, aiming to sever Britain's crucial lifelines and force a swift Allied collapse. As a result, Allied shipping losses surged, often exceeding 500,000 tons per month. Amid these mounting threats, diplomatic chaos erupted with the interception of the Zimmermann telegram in January 1917, in which Germany encouraged Mexico to reclaim lost territories from the United States if it joined the Central Powers. This revelation, coupled with ongoing submarine attacks on American vessels, pushed U.S. President Woodrow Wilson to ask Congress for a declaration of war. On April 6, 1917, the United States officially entered the conflict, throwing its vast industrial and military resources behind the Allies. To combat rampant U-boat attacks, the Allies introduced the convoy system, grouping merchant ships under dedicated naval escorts. Armed destroyers employed depth charges, canisters set to explode at predetermined depths, forcing submarines to surface or flee. Additionally, the Otranto Barrage, an extensive minefield and naval blockade at the Strait of Otranto between Italy and Albania, was established to prevent Austro-Hungarian and German submarines from accessing the wider Mediterranean Sea. These measures, along with tighter intelligence sharing and more coordinated maritime patrols, helped reduce losses and gradually eroded Germany's underwater advantage, though the threat of the U-boat remained potent well into 1918. By 1918, Allied countermeasures against German U-boats had reached a new level of effectiveness. The convoy system, now fully established, drastically lowered merchant shipping losses by placing entire fleets under the watchful eyes of armed escorts and destroyers equipped with depth charges. Meanwhile, extensive mine barrages in the North Sea, particularly the massive northern barrage between Scotland and Norway, choked off vital U-boat passageways. Early forms of aerial reconnaissance also contributed, spotting submarines near the surface or pinpointing likely routes. As Germany's attack options dwindled, mounting U-boat losses undermined its once formidable underwater advantage. Throughout the war, German U-boats launched over 55,000 torpedo attacks, sinking more than 5,000 Allied ships. Resupply and crew replacement became increasingly difficult, with morale plummeting as missions turned into desperate gambles. By autumn, Germany was on the verge of collapse on both land and sea. Under the terms of the armistice, German U-boats were surrendered or scuttled, marking the end of an intense campaign that had reshaped naval warfare worldwide. By the war's end, over 5,000 Allied ships had been sunk, yet Germany lost more than 200 U-boats in the process, demonstrating both the power and vulnerability of undersea warfare. The submarine's impact accelerated sonar research and improved torpedo design, setting the stage for modern anti-submarine tactics. Mines, hydrophones, and convoy systems would all evolve rapidly in the post-war years, forever transforming naval strategy. These developments foreshadowed an even larger U-boat campaign during World War II, when newer technologies and global reach would make submarine warfare more decisive and devastating than ever before. Thanks for exploring the story of submarine warfare with us. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you won't miss future dives into history. Let us know in the comments what you'd like to see next.